as we begin chapter 6 in Romans, let me remind you who may have just started listening, these recordings are for some friends in Ukraine that want to read the Bible in English, though it is not their first language, and try to understand the English of the Bible. And no better way to learn a language than in this great book. So we'll read a little today, starting in chapter 6. What should we say then? Okay, what should I say? What do I say? Should we continue in sin so that grace may multiply? That's asking the question. We said where there was sin, there's grace. So should I sin more so that there would be more grace? That's the question that's asked. And the second verse says, absolutely not. Of course not. How can we who died to sin still live in it? That is saying, when you accept Christ, we identify with him, we die to sin. And if we died to it, how are we just going to live in it every day? Now, yes, we will sin, but don't live in it. Don't let that become your everyday life again, because you died to sin. Verse 3, or are you unaware? Do you not know that all of us who were baptized into Christ Jesus were baptized into his death? To be baptized into, it's identification. It's being covered. It's being surrounded by. We identified, were baptized into his death, the death to our sin, the death that he died for our sin. In verse 4, therefore, because of this, we were buried with him by his baptism into death, in order that just as Christ was raised from the dead by the glory of the Father, so we too may walk in newness of life. So see, Jesus was raised from the dead. The glorious power of his Father, the glory of his Father raised Jesus from the dead. And because of that, we too can walk in new life, being resurrected from our old life, from those old sins. In verse 5, for if we have been united with him, brought together with him, in the likeness of his death, identifying with his death, we will certainly also be in the likeness of his resurrection. But if we identified with his death, we will identify with his resurrection. Okay, that's only 5 verses. Let's read another. For we know that our old self was crucified with him, so that the body ruled by sin, our body was ruled by our sin, might be rendered or made, to render, so to make it powerless, so that we may no longer be enslaved to sin, since the person who has died is free from sin. We're going to stop at that part. There's so much in these early verses of chapter 6. We died to sin. So we shouldn't sin more. We died to sin. We should seek to live free from sin. We will sin, but we don't live in it. We don't make it a part of our life anymore. We identified with Jesus Christ's death, his burial, his resurrection, in the likeness of him. Because of what he has done for us, we can live free of sin, not living daily in sin, but living in his likeness, dead to sin, resurrected to new life. We'll carry on next time.